first up, let's get to that huge late controversy at Goodison Park. Everton were awarded a stoppage time penalty, which could have won it for them, against Manchester United, only for VAR to intervene. Andy Madley, sent to the screen, changed his mind. Dermot, what's your thoughts on this?
I think, for me, best solution is stick with the referee. VAR not get involved. I think once VAR got involved, it raised a number of issues that didn't really need raising, to be honest. I think one of the problems was, I think the referee gave a penalty against Maguire. I'll say, I don't think Maguire's fouled him, but I do think De Ligt has got hold of his shirt for long enough to give a penalty.
Yeah, it seems as if that was overlooked, doesn't it? Because it raised the case, as you did quite rightly, there was this clear and obvious error, and we've heard all season about the referee's call on the pitch. If we have a little look, this is the incident, and this is what was shown to the referee. And then we have the explanation, which now comes out on social media from the Premier League Match Centre, sent from the PGMOL. And it's interesting, in their comment, in their social media post, that they referred to Maguire on Young and didn't mention De Ligt and his involvement in there. Why do you think that was? Because did they just miss De Ligt in the shirt pull?
I think it raised a number of issues, Rob, because I don't think it's a foul by Maguire. I definitely don't think he fouls. But obviously the referee has said to the VAR, I've given a penalty because I think Maguire has pulled his shirt. The VAR has looked and said no. And somebody said to me, well, and I said, well, does De Ligt not pull his shirt? When I was talking to another referee, he said to me, he said, but don't forget, that's not the offence the referee gave. And my take on that was, but if he sees an offence that he thinks is a penalty, he can still give a penalty. And he said, he can't. I said, well, most penalties that are given that the referee doesn't see on the field are what a VAR spots that the referee doesn't. And surely this falls into the same bracket. And that's where I think the dilemma is, that I think we got so bogged down looking at the Harry Maguire one that De Ligt actually got washed away.
But we do start with Manchester United, who have confirmed they expect to make a further 200 redundancies as part of what they call a transformation plan to strengthen financial sustainability and return to profitability. Let's get much more on that. Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, is alongside me. Good afternoon. What does that mean then?
Well, it means that up to another 200 people who are employed by Manchester United could be losing their jobs. This is on top of the 250 roles that have already been removed last year. The background to this, of course, is that INEOS and Jim Ratcliffe bought a 25% stake in United just over a year ago. And since they've come into the club, they have looked at areas where they can make changes. I think in their opinion, they can make the business leaner, more streamlined, to make it fit for 2025 and the future. And they have identified roles that can be made redundant. And that is what they have been doing. And in the statement we've just had in the past hour from the chief executive, Omar Barada, he says we are initiating a wide-ranging series of measures which will transform and renew the club. Unfortunately, this means announcing further potential redundancies, and we deeply regret the impact on those affected colleagues. However, these hard choices are necessary to put the club back on a stable financial footing. We've lost money for the past 5 consecutive years. This cannot continue. Our 2 main priorities as a club are delivering success on the pitch for our fans and improving our facilities. We cannot invest in these objectives if we are continuously losing money.
Now, last week, it marked a year since INEOS took their stake and took control of football operations at Manchester United. There were a lot of pieces about, I guess you would call it potentially penny pinching if you wanted to, or streamlining. It's not just redundancies that are being put in place by INEOS to change things at Manchester United.
No, I think going forward, we are going to see more staff moving from Old Trafford. to working at Carrington. Of course, Carrington is being redeveloped at the moment. Also, I think there will be a reduced presence at Manchester United's offices in London. If you remember, under Ed Woodward, for instance, United always had a presence in central London. Their offices used to be in Mayfair. I think they've moved to High Street, Kensington. That was to have the people who sort of negotiate United's commercial deals based in London, because the thinking was that it was easier to meet interested parties who wanted to do business with United in London rather than in Manchester. I think going forward there will still be a London office for United, but more of the people who work in London will be moving to Manchester. Also, a couple of other things to clear up. I know there have been some reports today about the fact that if you work at United's training ground and you're not a member of the first team squad, the catering arrangements are going to change for you. I've seen headlines saying that you'll only be getting soup and sandwiches. I think the guidance we are getting is that Carrington catering arrangements will remain unchanged for the remainder of the season. But of course, as at every other club, there is a difference between the food that first team players, the first team, the academy and the women's teams are served compared to what other people who work at the training ground get. Also, we're being told there will be an end to free lunches for staff at Old Trafford. Again, that's in line with most workplaces, and United believe that that will save them around £1 million a year. Also, just to clarify, Manchester United's annual donation to the Manchester United Disabled Supporters Association, which is about £40,000 a year, that is remaining unchanged.
A lot of it doesn't feel great for morale, though, does it?
I mean, of course it doesn't. You know, people are losing their jobs. And a lot of the people losing their jobs are not the people who are responsible for the fact that United have lost something like £300 million over the past 3 years. Now, if you look at why United are struggling financially, those people are not the people to blame, really. The problem has been the vast sums of money that have been spent in the transfer market. A lot of that money has been spent on players who have not delivered on the pitch. Also, the fact that the executives at United have made some decisions, some mistakes that have cost the club a lot of money. For instance, giving Erik Ten Hag a new contract and then having to pay him off. Employing Dan Ashworth, and then him leaving so quickly and having to be paid off. Again, these people who are losing their jobs are not responsible for that. And of course, when you're talking about United and finances, you have to talk about their ownership model. Being owned by the Glazer family has cost Manchester United well over £1 billion over the last 19 years. And I've said this again before, and I'll say it again. When the Glazers bought Manchester United, they borrowed £604 million. They loaded that debt onto the club. The club have paid £834 million in interest on that debt. And 19 years later, that debt has gone up to £731 million. 19 years ago, they borrowed £604 million. The debt is now £731 million, and £834 million has been paid out on interest. This is a club who were debt-free when the Glazers bought Manchester United. These figures are from the Swiss Ramble blog accounts. You can look at them yourself. They are based on Manchester United's accounts over the last 19 years. Also, United owe £391 million in transfer payments. So their total debt is £1.1 billion. In the past 10 years, the Glazer family have taken out dividends of £177 million. And just over a year ago, they sold 25% of the club for around £1 billion to INEOS.
Just a quick final point then. You would say that, because Ruben Amorim has mentioned it recently, that all of this has a knock-on effect to what he can do with the team, and he has spoken in recent weeks about don't expect us to be able to regenerate the squad heavily because, quite simply, if we're not in the Champions League, the money isn't there anymore.
No, being out of the Champions League probably costs United ballpark figure of around £100 million a year. So that hurts them massively. Yes, you're absolutely right. Ruben Amorim is not going to have significant funds to spend in the transfer market. But if you look at Manchester United's accounts, they are still a very, very valuable club. They have a massive fan base. Their commercial income is one of the best in the world. There is no reason why, if Manchester United were debt-free and run properly, why they could not be as successful as they were under Sir Alex Ferguson.
Manchester United will make up to 200 jobs redundant to return the club to profitability. About 250 members of staff were made redundant last year in a first wave of cost-cutting measures by co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe. In a meeting with staff on Monday, United Chief Executive Omar Barada informed employees that there would be a fresh round of redundancies as part of a transformation plan. A club statement read the transformation plan aims to return the club to profitability after 5 consecutive years of losses since 2019. It added that approximately 150 to 200 jobs may be made redundant, subject to a consultation process with employees, with the process expected to take between 3 and 4 months. As of the 30th of June 2024, Manchester United had 1,140 employees, so 450 redundancies would be 39% of the club's workforce. Last week, the club revealed a loss of £27.7 million in their second quarter financial results, and the Red Devils have lost more than £300 million over the past 3 years. United are on course for their lowest finish in the Premier League era, as Ruben Amorim's team are 15th in the table after Saturday's 2-2 draw at Everton. The club statement added that the additional measures are being taken to improve the club's financial sustainability and enhance operational efficiency. This will create a more solid financial platform from which the club can invest in men's and women's football success and improved infrastructure. Barada said, "We have a responsibility to put Manchester United in the strongest position to win across our men's, women's and academy teams. These hard choices are necessary to put the club back on a stable financial footing. We have lost money for the past 5 consecutive years. This cannot continue. Our 2 main priorities as a club are delivering success on the pitch for our fans and improving our facilities. We cannot invest in these objectives if we are continuously losing money." United also announced the appointment of Mark Armstrong as the club's chief business officer on Monday. The transformation plan will include some staff moving from Old Trafford to the club's Carrington training base, and a reduced presence will be maintained in London, but all the club's leadership will be Manchester-based, including Armstrong. Free lunches will no longer be provided for staff at Old Trafford, saving more than £1 million a year, while the catering arrangements at Carrington will be unchanged for the remainder of the season. The club's annual donation to the Manchester United Disabled Supporters Association (MUDSA) will remain at £40,000, and the club is in talks with Manchester United Foundation (MUF) about its level of contribution. Ratcliffe has announced a string of cost-cutting measures since his investment in United, with the club saying at the time that the first round of redundancies would save between £40 million to £45 million. In December, Ratcliffe warned more difficult and unpopular decisions would be taken to get the club to where he wants it to be. Matchday ticket prices have been increased to £66 per game, with no concessions for children or pensioners. Ratcliffe is still to decide whether to rebuild Old Trafford, which could cost £1.5 billion, or build a new ground, which would likely cost more than £2 billion.